Hari Om, everyone. We'll do all the recap of the chapters, as many as possible today, but nothing to worry. You have your time to express, and then if needed, we'll use next week also. And if needed, we can use the other week also, but we'll keep in mind thoroughly Canto 1. Because as we go ahead, we may not be able to revisit this again. And then we will have some selected verses or some stutis from those cantos. And we'll start marking the stutis and make a separate notebook for all the stutis because Bhagavad is full of stutis and I'll be giving that list as well. So now today's first two cantos, Lataji is going to start. So she wants to also do the opening prayers. So we will just get flowing and we have our 15 minutes buffer time also before the daily Gita. So, but we cannot use more than 15 minutes because it's Friday and it's 10:15 out in Singapore. So without wasting much time, Lataji, over to you.
Om. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratan Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahmavidvaram Satgurum Brahmavidvaram Yo Antah Pravishya Mama Vachamimam Prasuptam Sanjeevayatyakila Shaktidhara Swadhamna Anyamshcha Hasta Charana Shravanatvagadim Pranan Namo Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhyam प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम् ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये ईश्वरः परमः कृष्णः सच्चिदानन्दविग्रहः अनादिरादिर्गोविन्दः सर्वकारणकारणं कृष्णं नारायणं वन्दे व्रजप्रियं कृष्णं द्वैपायनं कृष्णं वन्दे पृथासुतं सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रय विनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः रमापति पदाम्भोज परिस्फुरति मानसं सेनापतिमहं वन्दे विश्वक्सेनं निरन्तरं प्रह्लाद नारद पराशर पुण्डरीक व्यासम्बरीश शुक शौनक भीष्मदाल्भ्यान् रुक्माङ्गदार्जुन वसिष्ठ विभीषणादीन् पुण्यानिमान् परम भागवतान् स्मरामि ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयादितरतः चार्थेष्वभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयः यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि धर्मः प्रोजितकैतवोऽत्र परमः निर्मत्सराणां सतां वेद्यं वास्तवमत्र वस्तु शिवदं तापत्रयोन्मूलनम् श्रीमद्भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परैरीश्वरः सद्यो हृद्यवरुध्यतेऽत्र कृतिभिः शुश्रूषुभिस्तत्क्षणात् निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखादमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः यं प्रव्रजन्तमनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरह कातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुः तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि यस्वानुभावमखिलश्रुतिसारमेकम् अध्यात्मदीपमतितीर्षतान्तमोऽन्धम् संसारिणां करुणयाः पुराणगुह्यम् तं व्याससूनुमुपयामि गुरुं मुनीनां नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमः पङ्कजनाभाय नमः पङ्कजमालिने नमः पङ्कजनेत्राय नमस्ते पङ्कजाङ्घ्रये यस्य भगवताख्या सर्वेषां भक्तिदानृणां स एव करुणा सिन्धुः बोधितात्मा गुरुर्मम तस्मै श्री वासुदेवाय धरणीसुररूपिणे गुरुवायुपुरेशाय तुभ्यं श्री गुरवे नमः। शङ्खचक्रगदा पद्मधारिणे गुरुरूपिणे गुरुवायुपुरेशाय वासुदेवाय ते नमः। संसारसागरे मग्नं दीनं मां करुणानिधे कर्मग्राहगृहीताङ्गं मामुद्धर भवार्णवात्। श्रीमद्भागवताख्योऽयं प्रत्यक्षः कृष्ण एव हि स्वीकृतोऽसि मया नाथ मुक्त्यर्थं भवसागरे मनोरथो मदीयोऽयं सफलः सर्वथा त्वया निर्विघ्नेनैव कर्तव्यः दासोऽहं तव केशव। शुकरूप प्रबोधज्ञ सर्वशास्त्रविशारद एतत् कथा प्रकाशेन मदज्ञानं विनाशय। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खं कौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रम् राधासहायमतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशमनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वातालयेशमनिशं हृदि भावयामि। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणाखिल गुरो भगवन् नमस्ते। Hari Om. So today I will be giving a short summary of the first two chapters of the first skanda, which is also known as Adhikari skanda. So the first skanda describes how Bhagavata came to be produced and introduces the main subject of this Purana, which is actually Bhagavan Shri Krishna himself. And it was composed by the great sage Vedavyasa. Now, why is it called an Adhikari skanda? Now, we know that Adhikari means one who is eligible or qualified. And here, Raja Parikshit, who is the main person who actually helped us in a way indirectly for us to get this knowledge through the great sage Shuka, he was the most eligible and qualified person to listen to this great Bhagavata, which is text that sets the stage for understanding the Bhagavatam and its teachings and provides a framework for us to study the scripture. So in verses 1 to 3 of chapter 1, it starts with an invocation to the all-pervading Lord, from whom creation, sustenance, and dissolution of the universe takes place. The all-pervading Lord, who is the transcendental reality, is both the material and the instrumental cause of this universe. And he's further glorified as the one who reveals the truth of the Vedas to Lord Brahma, who is none other than a part of him, part of the Lord himself. And the verse also asks us to meditate on that supreme truth, on whose light of consciousness there is no place for any falsity. In verse 2, it goes on to say that the topic discussed is dharma, and the teaching it imparts is about the supreme truth that brings about good for all and removes the threefold sufferings of man. The threefold sufferings are basically of three types, which is adhyatmic, adhibhautik, and adhidaivik. So that means the sorrows that are caused, one inflicts upon oneself, or those sorrows that come from external, like external people or external surroundings. And adhidaivik refers to the natural causes or the calamities which are brought by nature and which also again causes suffering to mankind. Now in verse 3, it implores us to drink the nectar of the fruit of the tree of Vedas, which flowed from the mouth of the great parrot Sri Shuka, who was the son of Vedavyasa and who is also the narrator of this entire Bhagavatam to Raja Parikshit, who again belonged to the Pandava clan, and he was the grandson of Arjuna and ruling. At that time, he was the ruler for that dynasty. Now, verses 4 to 11, it sort of describes the main topic of this chapter. So the scene begins in Naimisharanya, where a long-drawn fire sacrifice, or satra as they call it, was being performed by some rishis, led by Shaunaka. And these rishis were desirous of attaining the realm of Mahavishnu, and hence they had started this 1,000-year sacrifice. One day during a rest period, they respectfully put forth some very, very relevant questions to Suta Ugrashravas, who was the son of sage Lomaharshana. They had 6 questions, all of them very pertinent to mankind, especially in this current Kali Yuga. Of these 6 questions, 4 of the answers can be found in the first skanda, chapter 2, and the rest is found, I think, somewhere around chapter 3 and 4. But they are all in brief, but the full explanation or the answers can be found in the entire 11 or 10 chapters of Shrimad Bhagavatam. And as we go through it, we will understand how these questions are answered. But today I will just tell you all what are the questions and brief whatever answers that was given here. So the first question from the sages was, what is that which is the ultimate good or shreyas and the most essential for man to attain salvation? So the answer for this is found in the 2nd chapter. And Suta Ugrashravas replies that devotional service to Lord Krishna is the highest duty of man because it generates devotion or bhakti to the Supreme Being. And the ultimate good for one is to become free of material entanglements without any motive or obstruction and develop such a devotion that awakens dispassion and therefore gives immediate knowledge of truth. The soul thus realizes the all blissful Paramatman, known as Brahman, the one without a second. Question 2. What is the essence of all the scriptures which are so vast and varied, and by following which the mind becomes tranquil and calm? Now, the answer, although the scriptures of the Vedas explain subjects and gives instruction on sacrifices, etc., to those people who are interested in such activities, so as to material benefits or attain heavenly plane, the ultimate goal of these scriptures is to increase devotion towards Lord Krishna or Mahavishnu in the heart of the seekers. Such devotional activities can be practiced by anyone irrespective of gender, age, culture, status in society, and so on. So bhakti towards the Lord and service to those devotees such as the sages and saints who relate stories and who are constantly praising the Lord. And so when a person listens to these tales and stories of the Lord, it helps one to be in constant thought of him and cut away the bondages of karma phala in us. The third question was, why and how did Lord Krishna appear on this planet as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki? Now in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 verses 7 to 8, Bhagavan had asserted that whenever there are extensive adharmic conditions or people who are adharmic bringing chaos and damage to mankind, he would descend on earth as one of his many manifestations to bring back dharma and establish it as the stronghold of life on earth. So when the Lord appeared as Sri Krishna in the womb of Devaki and son of Vasudeva in the age of Dwapara Yuga, his mission was to set right the adharmic conditions that were prevailing on earth at that time and re-establish the principles of religion and protect every living and non-living beings through his sattvic aspect. Now, question 4. What are the pastimes and activities the Almighty Lord Krishna displays during his different descents or avatars, and which have been sung elaborately by seers like Narada? The answer for this again is in verse 30 to 31 in chapter 2. It says that though the Lord is Mahavishnu, is beyond the three gunas of Prakriti or Maya, by his inherent power or Atma Maya, he is capable of subsisting in the dual condition of cause and effect. Yet he remains unaffected by Sattva, Rajas or Tamas because of his own immaculate self-awareness. Just as fire, though really one, appears as many when abiding in different logs that manifest it, the Lord, who is the soul of the universe, he appears as many when manifested in different beings. As he manifests into various material bodies created by himself, by combining the effect of the three gunas, he plays different roles and enacts leelas as he enjoys the sense objects appropriate to those bodies. Then question 5, we'll come to that. What are the auspicious leela avatar or sportive descents of Srihari, the Lord of all, which he assumed by his mysterious power or Maya for the purpose of play? This question is answered in chapter 3 of the first skanda, and it gives descriptions of each of Lord Krishna's incarnations, either as an Amsha or part avatar or Purna avatar, such as Sri Rama and Sri Krishna's, during different yugas of this particular universe. And question 6, what became the shelter of the religious principles of dharma after Lord Krishna left his earthly abode 5,000 years ago? Now, Lord Krishna was a friend of the Brahmanas and he was the savior of spirituality. So when this question was asked by the sages at Naimisharanya to Ugrashravas, Lord Krishna had already left for his eternal abode and Kali Yuga had already set in. So you can see this question is very relevant to us in our present age. When Krishna disappeared from the world, along with him Dharma and Jnana had also disappeared. Then arose the son of Bhagavata Purana as a guide to men caught up in Kali. If a person studies or hears the narrations of this beautiful text, the Lord will enter our heart through our ears and purify our mind. And when our mind is thus purified, we can be at eternal peace at the feet of Lord Krishna. Thank you.
So beautiful. Thank you, Lataji. And I hope you or somebody will post in the group. So now for
So
chapter
you want
3,
I take a picture?
then yes, yeah.
I'll do it.
And for chapter 3 and 4.
Yeah, regarding chapter 3 and 4, the chapter 3 describes the avatars of Lord Vishnu there, Lord, the cosmic form. He takes 24 avatars. There are many avatars to defeat the evil and uplift the dharma on the earth, but 24 are prominently mentioned in Bhagawat. So here, the Lord assumes the form of Purusha in the beginning, consists of 16 components, that is 10 sense organs, 5 elements, and 1 mind. And from his navel comes up the Brahma. So the Lord here takes many avatars, countless, like as it said in the 10th chapter of Gita, wherever you see there is God, like Mount Meru, Vajrayudham, Ashwatha, everywhere he is formed. But these 24 are prominently described in Bhagavat. Coming to the first form, it is Sanat Kumaras. The Sanat Kumar, he took the form of Sanat Kumaras to spread, but he took the O of celibacy there. So the universe could not expand beyond that. And next, the form is the Varaha Avtara. This form is taken by the Lord to lift the earth from the waters. Like every form is to destroy the evil and uplift the Dharma or bring up the Dharma on the earth. So this form is taken to uplift the earth which was drenched by a Rakshasa in the waters. Then coming to the third Avatara is the form of Narada, a celestial rishi, who spread bhakti with his immense singing and always like told us the chanting of the name, whatever, wherever the situation, the chant, the words on the Narayana on the lips would always be beautiful. Then comes the fourth form, which is Nara and Narayana, which proves that the Nara and Narayana are no different, that it's a human form or a divine form. It is both the same. And the Nara and Narayana did a severe penance. Then comes the fifth form, Kapila Maharshi. He is the Lord of Siddhas, who taught the Sankhya system of philosophy and fundamental principles of life. Then the form of Dattatreya, who was born to Atri, who spread the knowledge of self to the Alarka king and Prahalada. Then comes the seventh and eighth form, Yajna in the form of Manvantara, then Rishabhadeva, then the King Prithu, then the 10th form is the Matsya Avatara, who used this form to pick Vaivasumanu from the earth and put them onto the boat, and the boat finally transformed on the boat and transformed them to the next yuga, carried them to the next yuga with all the things on the boat. The next form is Kurmavatara. This form was used due to the churning of the Milky Ocean, and it was the base for the stick for the churning. Then from the churning came out the form of Dhanvantari with a milky pot jar of nectar from the Milky Ocean with a jar of nectar. Then the Mohini form. The nectar, there was a dispute between the Devas and Rakshasas who to take the form. So Mohini, Lord took the form of Mohini to protect the jar from the Rakshasas and give it to the Devas. Then the form of Narasimha. He took the form of Narasimha to tear apart Hiranyakashipu, who was troubling his great devotee Prahalada, and to uplift the Dharma there. Then the fifth form is Vamana took the dwarf form to ask 3 feet of earth from the king Bali. Then comes the form Parashurama. This is to destroy the arrogance of the kings who have become inimical to the Brahmanas. Then comes the 17th from Vyasa. This is the greatest form which has given us Vedas, Mahabharata, and many scripts which helps the mankind to live in it, like the concept of mankind, the concept of system of philosophy, everything came from Vyasa. Then Sri Rama, the perfect Uttama Purusha is called. He showed us how a person can live without any bad notions and bad minds on the earth. And he has been a great husband, king, son. Then comes the form of Balarama and Krishna. Then the 20 Buddha, Hayagriva, who spread the knowledge, Kalki and the Adi Purusha. Then he took many forms like Manu, sons of Manu, Prajapati, are all the forms of Sri Hari, who know the ultimate, those who know that he is the ultimate truth, that is all Maya and one becomes get established in the glory of life. Then the great Vedavyasa composed this Purana known as Shrimad Bhagavata, which is the cream from the Vedas and Itihasas. This Purana is taught to his son Shukha, who in turn taught Parikshit. This is composed for the benefit of mankind. And how this Purana was composed is explained in the 4th chapter, the next chapter. Then Shunaka Sutta, in which age this Bhagavad Purana discourse was held, and who was it taught to, and how was it recited to Parikshit Maharaj. Then Sutta explained that in Dwapara Yuga, the great Veda Vyasa, who is a manifestation of the Lord himself, that is, was the form of the Lord, he has divided the Vedas into 4 branches: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and Atharva Veda. Then Palya received the Rig Veda, Vaishampayana took over the Yajur Veda, Jaimani Sama Veda, and Atharvana Veda by Sumanta, who is the son of Dharuna. Later, these Vedas were given to their pupils, and they divided it. They further divided into many branches. The Sishyas of those Sishyas, and it went on like that, and it was divided into many branches. Then over the time, this was actually done for the benefit of the people. But as the time passes, it was not reached to all the people. Some were debarred from even hearing those Vedas, of not even learning, hearing from those. So Veda Vyasji composed Mahabharata so that irrespective of the race and gender, everybody can listen to it or read to it and attain that bliss. But even after that, he was not contented. He was not he felt that it is not the ultimate thing. There is something missing. So he went to a secluded place and started reflecting on what can be done. Only a person who realizes that Brahman can be one. So that there should be such thing where people realize that they are that one, they are that conscious. So he started reflecting on that what can be done. Then during that time, Naradji visited Veda Vyasji, and he was welcomed by Vyasji. Then how the Bhagavat was composed, how it came into existence is taught in the next chapters, which will be done by Arbina ji. Hari Om.
So beautiful, Nikhila ji, the presentation. Looking forward. Now you can post it in the group. So now we have seen first 4 chapters. Now for the next 2 chapters to Dinaji. Yes, beautiful.
Hari Om. So I'll continue from where Nikhilaji left out so beautifully. So I'm doing discourses 5 and 6. So in discourse 5, when Narada Muni has gone there and Vedavyasaji has welcomed him, and so this is just describing the scene where they are sitting, and though he has created such beautiful scriptures and the Mahabharata, Vedavyasaji is feeling very despondent. Even after compiling such great epics. And Naradaji is fully aware of why he is so dissatisfied. He's acknowledging his great achievements, and he tells him, yes, something essential is missing. And so then Vedavyasji requests Naradaji to, what is the root cause of this discontent? When he asks this, Naradaji says that his despondency was mainly due to nothing else but the lack of glorification of that all-pervading Vasudeva. He says he would have, Vedavyasji has written extensively about dharma, righteous living, and also about moksha and liberation. But by narrating the Lord's divine activities, one can even attract those minds who are averse to all spiritual topics, so thereby leading them to moksha. So then he exhorts to Vedavyasji to write about the Bhagavatam, which in a sense is all the activities of Lord Krishna. And he says this is what will be potent and purifying. Then he goes on to narrate to Vedavyasji the importance of content over the style and expression of how he is putting it down. He says that if one can speak with such figurative speeches and expressions, and in stylized language, and yet if it is on mundane topics unrelated to the absolute truth, then such speech is found entertaining only by men of low intelligence, just like the crows that wallow on the dirty leavings of food. Whereas speech that is focused on the highest wisdom coming straight from the heart and not as a mere intellectual discourse is just like the swans who are living in the pure Manasarovar lake, and they consume only the purest food. So this analogy is very beautiful, which shows that crows are just content with scraps, and they represent those who find pleasure only in the superficial and the worldly chatter. So contrasting this is the beautiful swans who in the Manasarovar lake symbolize the minds of sages and devotees who only seek and relish that purest nectar of wisdom. So Narada ji impresses the importance of the purity of content in speech rather than the ability to impress an audience with just, flourishes of speech. Then he goes on to say that there are, normally it is said that there are two ways of realizing the truth: through wisdom, which is jnana yoga, or action without attachment, which is karma yoga. And this, in the third chapter of the Gita, Lord Krishna has also mentioned this. And these two ways are suited for those who are drawn on towards contemplation or action. But here then he adds that both these ways have to be on the basis of bhakti yoga, so on loving devotion. So true wisdom is only when one sees that everything is an expression of the divine energy, and that hence you will be free from the false sense of ego. So karma yoga is only when one realizes every action get the results ordained by that divine energy and is not under the control of the doer. Both of them require a recognition of that divine energy that comes not from the intellect, but it comes from pure heartfelt surrender, which is bhakti yoga. And so Narada ji teaches Vedavyasa ji, he tells him it's the essential prerequisite for both jnana and karma yoga, and that is bhakti, and that is just that unconditional love alone. He then exhorts to him to focus on writing about the teachings and pastimes of the Lord that can bring about liberation for anyone who listens to it sincerely. He tells him that he might have written the great epic Mahabharata, and it was focused primarily on dharma, and it could result in men getting this a sense of separate ego and wrong perceptions. So what he meant by that is it could be interpreted, it could be wrongly interpreted as where there are rituals or actions where they have to sacrifice someone, like the animal sacrifices that were prevalent. So what he is telling him is that it's the importance of the object of one's actions and that is essential. If with pleasing the Supreme Lord and with a love for him, it just strengthens the ego instead of dissolving the ego. Then Narada ji says that the Supreme Lord, being the most beloved object of all living beings, and he tells Vedavyasa ji to dedicate all his literary work to him, describing his transcendental activities of the Lord, which will captivate the heart of all. And he shares his own personal, Narada ji shares his own personal story. He says how in his previous birth, he was born as the son of a maidservant who used to serve Brahmanas. And as a young boy, he was also engaged in serving these saintly figures. He would attend to all their needs, assist them in any way that they wanted. And because he was so sincere, these sages became very fond of him. They used to bless him with all the remaining prasad once in 24 hours, and his heart and mind gradually became very purified. He heard all the narrations of the Lord, and which obviously built his faith and attention. His attraction and love for hearing about the Lord grew, and the constant hearing of this purified his consciousness further and instilled that immense love and devotion for Lord Krishna. Then Narada Muni continues to describe this experience associated with the saintly devotees. He emphasizes the importance of humility, faith, sense control, and service in receiving true spiritual knowledge. And then he emphasized how Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate solution for material suffering. Then going on to discourse 6, here Sutaji then says that hearing all this from Narada ji, Vedavyasa ji again inquired that what Narada ji did after the departure of these great sages who had instructed him, and especially since he was just a child of about 5 years old. And he asked, how did you pass your life after that? How did you attain this body, having quit your old one in due course? And then he said that, how did time that obliterates everything still leave that memory of that existence? How is it so fresh? It's just like he continued his life. And basically because time is personified as an agent of change and dissolution. So Narada Muni continues with his conversation. He described how his association was purified by taking the prasad. And then he says one day his mother passed away. She was bitten by a snake. And although this was difficult for him as a child, he also saw it as the Lord's boon, freeing him from all the attachments of family life and allowing him to fully dedicate himself to the path of realization. And here Tejabayanatji's book has beautifully said that life may bring unpleasant experiences, but even in those, we should find and understand the blessings or benefits hidden therein. So it was just for Naradaji's personal spiritual gain. So he wandered through forests, meditating on the Supreme Lord, and as he had learned from sages, his mind was so overpowered by the love during his meditation that for a fleeting moment, he had a vision of the Lord. He said that seeing the most enchanting form of the Lord, he was completely lost. But then it was just for a moment. So he was feeling frustrated and sad that the Lord's disappearance. And when he heard this divine voice, and the Lord explained to him that he would not be able to see him again in this lifetime because he was not yet completely purified and free from the material world, and he still had all the latent desires in him. But the Lord assured him that with this single vision, what was meant was to increase that desire and longing in him for the Lord, and which would eventually lead to his complete purification in this life. And he promised him that when this body was cast off, he would attain the position of his attendant. He assured him that his devotion would never be fruitless and that he'll always retain the memory of the Lord by his grace. Then he continued to chant the name of the Lord. He got rid of all his cravings. He was free from vanity, jealousy. He was content at heart. And his material body fell once that prarabdha had that was responsible for it was reaped. And at that end of the kalpa, the end of the dissolution, he became one with the Lord. He received Veena and continued to roam around the world singing Narayana, Narayana. He is the only one who can go to demons or to denizens of heaven or to seers or laymen. So he's welcomed by all and disliked by none. So then he shares his personal realization that for those engrossed in material desires and anxieties, the constant chanting of Lord's activities is like that raft that is used to cross the ocean of mundane existence. He says he just contrasts this with the limitations of just merely practicing sense control through yoga, which he says does not provide the same satisfaction as such devotional service. And he concludes by stating that he has narrated his experience to Vedavyasji to serve the satisfaction of both his own soul and for that of Vedavyasji, to implying to him that hearing about engaging in devotional service is the ultimate fulfillment. So by this conversation, this basically sets the stage for Vedavyasji to fully embrace that path of bhakti and to begin compiling the Bhagavatam as instructed in the previous chapter. Hari Om.
So beautiful, Veena. Thank you so much. Again, you can also post it in the group. So we finished 6 for the next 2 now. Yes, you are ready. Good. Go ahead.
Hari Om, everyone. Continuing where Veena left off, I will talk about the chapters 7 and 8 of this first skanda. So the
You
chapter
can go
7.
on a full screen so that it
Oh,
can.
yeah. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
So the 7th chapter of the first canto or skanda is called Ashwatthama assassinates Draupadi's sons and how Arjuna curbs Ashwatthama's pride. So this chapter contains 58 verses and it begins with Shaunakaji inquiring about Vyasa's actions after receiving the advice from Narada. Now Sutta recounts that Vyasa in his hermitage, which is called Samyaprasha, which is by the banks of the river Saraswati, and this is in near modern day Badrinath. He entered into meditation, and through the purified bhakti, he perceived Lord Krishna as well as Maya, or the illusions. He understood how Maya deludes the living beings into identifying with material qualities, leading to samsara, which is the cycle of life, birth, and death. Vyasa then composed the Bhagavatam to dispel ignorance and to cultivate bhakti, which would destroy the cycle and alleviate suffering. He composed this Mahabharata for all ignorant ones such as ourselves. Having composed this, he revised it and then he taught it to his son Sukadev, who, as we know, is a realized Brahman. Now, Shaunakji had a question here. He said Sukadev was already fixed in Brahman and he was such a learned person and he was indifferent to everything, and he was, by birth, he was in a state of bliss and enjoying the realization of the self as being the one with the Lord. Then why did he have to study this elaborate work? So Suta then uttered this famous verse, which is in chapter 10, which is the 10th verse. And I would urge everyone to chant this as well. I'm going to try chanting it. Atma Ramascha Minayoho Nirgrantha Apyurukrame Kurvantyahaitu Kim Bhaktim Ityad Itham Bhuta Guno Harihi. Basically, what he is trying to say is that some sages who are already Atma Ramas are beyond the scriptures, false egos, the rules. They also practiced unmotivated pure bhakti towards the Master himself, Krishna, since he possesses qualities which are attractive to even them, even to these realized souls. This was true all the more for the divine sage Sukadeva, who is the son of Vedavyasa and the beloved of Lord Vishnu's own people, who studied this great chronicle every day in his mind. His mind had been entirely captivated by Sri Hari's excellences, as extolled in this beautiful text. Suta then goes on to say, I shall tell you the story of the birth, exploits, and the emancipation of the royal sage Parikshit, and the ascent of Pandu's sons to heaven, inasmuch as they serve as a prelude to the story of Lord Krishna himself. The narrative now shifts to the aftermath of the Kurukshetra war. Duryodhana is defeated, and Ashwatthama, desiring to please him, brutally murdered Draupadi's sleeping sons. This act was condemned heinously by everyone. A grieving Draupadi is pacified by Arjuna's vow to bring Ashwatthama's head to her. Arjuna persuades Ashwatthama, who in desperation, being chased by Arjuna, unleashes the powerful Brahmastra weapon, though he lacks the knowledge of how to retract it. Arjuna, guided by Krishna, counters it with his own Brahmastra, as there is no other weapon that can overpower the Brahmastra weapon. Seeing the immense destructive potential of these combined weapons, Arjuna, upon Krishna's behest, withdraws the Brahmastra. He finally captures Ashwatthama and brings him bound to the camp. Krishna advises Arjuna to kill the murderer, citing the principle of eliminating aggressors. As aggressors who act against the rules of killing, that is, pious people would never kill an enemy who is drunk, who is unguarded, asleep, tender of age, of manda buddhi, and so on and so forth. Or someone who had lost his chariot. All these are the basic rules. However, so Krishna goes on to tell him that to repent such crimes and to precipitate his own downfall, you should kill Ashwatthama. By doing so, you will do good to him, because he will never perpetuate such crimes again. He also reminds Arjuna that you had promised Draupadi that you would kill Ashwatthama. However, Arjuna's righteousness here was being challenged by the Lord, and Arjuna had listened to the Bhagavad Gita very carefully. Now, Arjuna hesitates because of Ashwatthama's Brahmanical status. Now, he binds him and brings him to Draupadi, and Draupadi shows great compassion and she pleads for his release, citing that he is the son of none other than Arjuna's and the rest of the Pandavas and Kauravas Guru Dronacharya. And upon citing also that she did not want Ashwatthama's mother Gautami to suffer the same fate as her of having to grieve for her dead children. Yudhishthira, who is the son of Dharma, Nakula, Sahadev, and everybody else who was there, completely endorsed the pious thinking of Draupadi despite her immense grief. Ultimately, following both the injunctions against killing a Brahmana as well as the directive to punish the aggressor as given as extolled by Krishna, Arjuna, with the subtle instructions from Krishna, cuts off Ashwatthama's hair and jewel on his head, thus depriving him of both power and status. This is considered a form of killing for a fallen Brahmana. Finally, the Pandavas and Draupadi together mourn the loss of their relatives and perform the funeral rites. Now, going on to chapter 8, which is made up of 52 verses, here the Lord protects Parikshit in the womb of his mother, and he is extolled by Kunti. And also there is Yudhishthira's remorse that we hear of. Now the Pandavas, along with Krishna and the women, proceeded to the Ganges river to offer oblations to their deceased relatives. After performing the rites and lamenting over their losses, they bathed in the sacred river. Krishna and the sages consoled the grieving Yudhishthira, his brothers, Dhritarashtra and Gandhari, who had lost so many of her children. Kunti, Draupadi, all of them were consoled by reminding them of the inevitability of death. Having reinstated Yudhishthira to his kingdom and his rightful throne, the downfall of the wicked kings who had offended Draupadi, and facilitating the performance of 3 grand Ashwamedha sacrifices which spread Yudhishthira's renown far and wide, Krishna prepared to depart from Dwaraka with Satyaki and Uddhava. As he was about to leave, Uttara, Abhimanyu's widow, rushed towards him in fear and sought his protection from a burning steel dart which had been chasing her and was aimed at her womb. She declared that he is her only refuge in the world where everybody is a threat. Suta now explains that Krishna, aware of Ashwatthama's intentions to eliminate the Pandava lineage, sees 5 fiery darts which are directed at the Pandavas. The Pandavas prepare to defend themselves, but Lord Krishna shields them with his Sudarshan Chakra. Employing his yogic powers, Krishna then envelops Uttara's womb, safeguarding the future of the Kuru dynasty. Even the infallible Brahmastra proves ineffective against the effulgence of Lord Vishnu himself. Kunti, along with her sons and Draupadi, having narrowly escaped the missile's fire, then address Krishna with reverence. Kunti, acknowledging her ignorance, offers obeisance to Krishna, the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the material nature, present within and outside in all beings, yet invisible to those with a distorted perception, being wielded by his own Maya. She questions how ordinary women like themselves can truly perceive him who has manifested to inspire devotion in the pure-hearted sages. And so she says these famous verses. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namah Pankajanabhaya Namah Pankajamaline, Namah Pankajanetraya, Namaste Pankajang. And she goes on to say a lot more. Of course, these two verses everyone is familiar with, so I will not explain them. She then continues to also acknowledge Krishna, calling him Rishikesha, the Lord of the senses, who rescued his mother Devaki from Kamsa's imprisonment and repeatedly saved Kunti and her sons from numerous calamities, whether from poison, fire, demonic threats, Duryodhana's wicked assembly, the perils in the forest, and so on and so forth, and most recently from Ashwathama's Brahmastra. She paradoxically also welcomes future calamities because they would ensure that Krishna's divine presence would be there, seeing which would eliminate the possibility of a rebirth. She contrasts those people blinded by pride stemming from birth, power, learning, and wealth, who cannot even utter his name, with those who are devoid of material possessions and to whom he, Krishna, is accessible. She recognizes him as the sole treasure of all the dispossessed, who is beyond the three gunas, self-satisfied, tranquil, and the bestower of liberation. She marvels at the inscrutability of his actions when he behaves like a human, noting his impartiality despite human perceptions of favoritism. She declares him the soul of the universe despite him being birthless and actionless, his incarnations and deeds among various species being mere divine clay. She expresses bewilderment at the memory of Krishna's feigned and apparent fear and tearful distress when he was reprimanded by Yashodama, finding it astonishing that the source of fear itself could appear to be afraid. Kunti recounts different perspectives of his appearance. Some believe he incarnated in the Yadu dynasty to glorify it. Others believe he was born to Devaki and Vasudeva to protect the world and vanquish the enemies of the gods, as requested by them in a previous birth. And still others believe that he appeared in response to Brahma's prayers to alleviate the earth's burden. Kunti continues her prayers, mentioning yet another reason for Krishna's advent, to revitalize devotional practices like hearing, remembering, and worshipping, thus enabling suffering souls to attain liberation. She emphasizes also that those who engaged in or delight in hearing about his activities will surely see his lotus feet, thus ending the cycle of birth and death. She expresses deep concern about Krishna's departure, questioning how they, utterly dependent on his mercy and surrounded by enemies, will survive without his protection. She asserts that without his presence and his glances, their fame, activities, and very existence of the Pandavas and the Yadus itself will vanish, just as the body's identity ceases with the soul's departure. She notices that their kingdom's beauty and prosperity are because of the impression of his feet and his merciful glances, which bless the land in abundance. Praying for detachment, Kunti implores Krishna to sever her affections from all her relatives, her kith and kin, and to fix her attraction entirely, undeviatingly towards him. She glorifies him as the friend of Arjuna and the destroyer of disruptive political forces and the possessor of undiminished prowess and the transcendental abode and the reliever of distress for cows, brahmanas, and devotees. She acknowledges his mystic powers and his role as the universal perceptor and the Almighty God, offering him her respectful obeisances. It was quite beautiful. Sutta Goswami narrates now that the Lord, hearing Kunti's eloquent prayers, responds with a gentle smile, accepting her prayers He enters Hastinapura, informing all the other ladies in the palace of his departure. And as he prepares to leave, he encounters a deeply grieving King Yudhishthira, who implores him to stay. Despite the counsel of Vyasa and others, and Krishna himself, Yudhishthira was not consoled over the guilt he felt for being responsible for the loss of many lives during the Kurukshetra war. The saving clause in the scriptures that the destruction of enemies in a righteous war on the part of a monarch seeking to protect his subjects is no sin, that is his dharma. But it failed to satisfy Yudhishthira. Overwhelmed by grief like an ordinary person, Yudhishthira lamented his perceived sinfulness for causing the death of countless men, including boys, brahmanas, well-wishers, friends, parents, brothers, and he feared eternal hell and mourned the wrath of all the women. And he believed that this wrath was irreplaceable by any material means that he could offer as king. And he concluded also that animal sacrifices would not atone the killing of men. Just like muddy water cannot be used to purify, cannot be purified by adding more mud to it, or the pollution caused by liquor cannot be alleviated by adding more to it. And thus ended the 8th chapter.
Hari Om, so beautiful. Thank you, Vani. So beautiful. The way you narrate, oh my God. So right. It's just right time to stop, though we have 15 minutes buffer time before the daily Gita. For the 9th and the 10th chapter, Rajeshwari Ma, is this time enough for you to express 10 minutes or you need more time?
I just written summary of these two chapters in brief way in my own way. Okay.
Okay. So I think we can hear
enough.
that. We have time.
Yeah.
Yes. So we will
Yeah,
accomplish.
but-
So then the next week, if we have time left, we will continue with our chapter 2 of
Yeah.
Canto 2.
Okay.
Then we don't have to spare one more day. Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is chapter 9 summary. In this, Sutta says to Shaunaka and other rishis, that battle of Kurukshetra was over. There was huge human loss. And after seeing this, Dharmaraja was grief-stricken. And he blamed himself for this. Many people tried to console him, but he couldn't overcome his grief. He wants to gain some knowledge. Hence, he, along with his 4 brothers and Lord Krishna, went to the battlefield of Kurukshetra to see Bhishma Pitamaha, who was on the bed of arrows. Bhishma was waiting for the auspicious time, that is Uttarayana, to leave this eternal world. In addition to Lord Krishna and great Pandavas, there were great sages and rishis like Narada, Vyasa, Shuka, Angirasa, Vashishta, and many more had gathered to see Bhishma. After seeing Pandavas, Bhishma felt very happy and also equally sad. And he said to Dharmaraja that although they followed dharma and truth, and even though the Lord was on their side, they could not avoid hardships and difficulties because of karma or fate. He said that in this world, all are time-bound and no one can escape fate. After this, Gangeya, with the permission of Krishna, preached Dharmaraja the values of king and his duties, Varna dharmas, many shastras, bhakti, and also nivritti and pravritti ways to reach the God. Following this, Bhishma focused on his final moments, he started to praise and pray Lord Krishna, who was none other than Parabrahma, the incarnation of Lord Narayana. He wished to see him till his last breath. Bhishma thought that he was very fortunate to be able to see Lord himself in front of him during his final moments on this earth. This shloka from Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 8, supports this moment. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktya kalevaram yah prayati satamad bhavam yati nastasya samshayaha. At the time, Bhishma remembered how ardent devotees of Lord were blessed by his kindness, including him. He recollected the incident from the battlefield. Before Kurukshetra war, Krishna told Arjuna that he wouldn't participate directly in the war, but would be in charge of his chariot. Bhishma came to know this, and he vowed to see that Lord involved in the war. One day during the battle, when Arjuna was very badly injured by the arrows of Bhishma, Krishna couldn't control his anger and was on the verge of picking up weapons before Arjuna reminded him of his vow. This way, the devotee's wish was fulfilled. With this, the Bhishma, the soul and mind immersed in the Lord, he was breathed his last. Chapter 10, Krishna returns to Dwarka. After staying in Hastinapura for a few more months, Krishna wished to return to Dwarka. The people of Hastinapura and the Pandavas were very sad upon hearing the Lord's wishes. They couldn't imagine their separation from him and his love towards them. Pandavas felt that with his help and love, they could win back their kingdom. However, and with great difficulty, Dharmaraja agreed for this. The day had come. Lord Krishna was set to return to Dwarka. He bid farewell to elders like Dhritarashtra, Gandhari and Kunti and others, and bid farewell to Pandavas. People from all walks of life banded and gathered on the streets of Hastinapura while they were grief-stricken about not seeing him. They wanted to shower their love and all through the town. Musical instruments were played, flowers were showered, and people were recollecting the glories and the leelas of Lord Krishna when he was child, when he was young, and how he just killed all the asuras sent by the king of Madhura, Kamsa. These were all part of the proceedings. Promising everyone that he would return to Hastinapura in the future, Lord Krishna bid farewell and started his journey back to Dwaraka.
Thank you so much, Rajamma. So beautifully you have written meticulously all the points expressed. Please do take a picture and post it in the group as well.
Yeah, because I have handwritten this one. I will just ask my son to take the copy of in a printed manner so that many may understand my handwriting. That's why. Whatever the important points, I thought that these many only from that chapters. That's why. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Though we have time, but conveniently Anupama has bunked today. So 11th and 12th is her turn. And she's not informed, so I don't know. So I think then we can pause and we can continue. Though these 10 minutes were crucial, we could have covered one more thing, but she's not there. Venkatesh ji had mentioned. So I said, don't worry, his turn won't come today. But Anurana's has come. Never mind. We'll continue next week. I think next week half session should be over, maybe sufficient, or maybe 45 minutes. Then whatever remaining time is there, we'll continue with the chapter 2 of Canto 2. Then we can also keep awareness that we have to make some points and some notes. We have to summarize the chapter. And when somebody is doing like this, and when we listen to it, it becomes very easy to grasp, and we don't have a load of studying the whole thing. And those who are doing that summary, they only study those two and concentrate and give us the gist and the essence. It becomes very nice. So we'll continue like this for Canto 2 also, the summary. And we should also take, if we have not taken so far, some chapters, so that then accordingly we would also study. Radhakrishnan is there, but without listening to 11th and 12th, to do 13th and 14th will not be a justice. So I didn't suggest that Radhakrishnan. Okay, so then let's end today's session. For daily Gita Vani, you can give a different link, because one kid is there at 10:30, and 10th and 11th chapter will not finish in 15 minutes. It will
Okay.
20-25. If
I'll
you can
post the link.
put it there for the daily Gita, then
Sure.
Okay, let's end today's session. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Thank you everyone for joining. Let's reveal only Bhagavad little bits.
Thank you,
Hari
Varshaji.
Hari
Thank
Om.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hari Om.
Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Hari-
Harsha. This is a
Hari Om.
lovely idea, I must say. I really like this idea
Yes.
a lot.
Thank you. So again, his way of prompting, the thoughts, so that we study and we come up and we revel in his stories, and it becomes easy. So nice and lovely presentation, you, Nikhilaji. And when we get something audio visual, it becomes more attractive, more attention. So probably by the time we are finishing second canto, all of us also will get pro or tech savvy to do some presentation. And some of you who are not able to can give points. There are a lot of tech savvy people here, Nikhila ji, Vani ji, Rajiv ji. So we can ask them, we can give them the points and ask them to put it in PPT and giving our ideas. We can do that as well. Those are sometimes, if you're not tech savvy, we have idea, but we don't know how to do. We can just tell them, give the points, give our notes, and that. So sometimes that audiovisual presentation also helps, and it remains in the mind, like how Nikhila ji showed all the avatars. So then, yeah, it becomes easy to retain. Just the names you have heard, it's gone. But when you see the pictures, also beautiful. Thank you, everyone, for joining. See you all next week. We continue. Hariya.
Thank you,
Hari
Ji.
Om.
Hari
Thank
Om.
you, everyone.
Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you so much.